for introducing and presenting me here this evening. And thank you so much for following the directive you got from Mr. DuBose to get me here. Now, those of you who look in on our proceedings there in Washington know very well that we members of Congress often refer to each other as my good friend, but most times we don't mean it. But when I call Sanford Bishop my good friend, I really, really do mean it. He is a very, very good friend, and has been one for a long, long time, and I thank him so much for that friendship. I thank you, Vivian, for helping to keep him calibrated, as our friend Bennett Thompson would say. I thank you as well for your friendship. Sam didn't mention this, and maybe I shouldn't, but for the last several Christmases, our families have spent the holidays together. We have come together now for several years on the Friday, whatever date that might be before Christmas, and we stay together until New Year's Eve. And that is a time when we have bonded together, our families. And when I say families, I mean all of them. We all just come together. Now, we don't stay together. We got more sense than that. We just stay in close proximity to each other, so that when tension begins to set in, everybody goes to their house and just come together the next day. But I thank them for their friendship. Thank you, the NAACP, for having me here for your 49th. As Sanford mentioned, I was elected president of my NAACP Youth Council in Sumter 2 months before my 13th birthday. At the age of 12, I became president of my youth council. And I still, on that evening, we were all given little t-shirts, NAACP Youth Council on the t-shirts. I don't know why, and I've often asked and wondered why I did. But for some strange reason, now I don't run from the fact that I'm 83 years old. So at the age of 12, you do the math, I still have that t-shirt. I still have it. I don't know why, but I kept that t-shirt in a shoebox. And several years ago, I said to my staff, I really, really want to keep this t-shirt. So we sent it out, had it treated and framed, and it hangs in my office. Looking at me now, you wonder how I ever got in it. That's what the NAACP has meant to me. When I was growing up in Sumter, where's Gloria? Gloria? Now that young lady, not so young lady, I just told you how old I am. She's not quite as old as I am, but we grew up together in Sumter. And I asked her when I saw her tonight, are you living here? She says, no, I'm in Atlanta, but I heard you want to be here, and I came over to hear you speak. And I want to thank you so much for doing that. But when I was growing up at the time that both mayors alluded to. I want to thank you all for being here, the mayor of Columbus as well as Phoenix City. I ain't all that surprised to see the mayor of Columbus, but knowing the history of Phoenix City, I'm a little surprised. A little bit surprised to see you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for being here. That means the NAACP is doing good work. So thank you. But when I was growing up, in the 50s, having been born in 1940, I grew up at a time that the work of the NAACP was very, very much needed. I grew up when issues were developing. And over in the little county next to mine, Clarendon County, where Brown v. Board of Education got started, where the first case, Calvin, I know you love history, the very first case that led to Brown v. Board of Education started in the little town of Somerton, Clarendon County. That case was started by a gentleman farmer, a man named Levi Pearson. Levi Pearson was making a pretty decent living as a farmer, but he wanted something better for his children. At the time, the children in Clarendon County, the little black children, did not have school buses. They were walking 9.5 miles to school when the white kids had school buses. All they wanted was buses for their children. And they were denied buses for their children by the superintendent, who said to them, "You don't pay enough taxes for us to purchase school buses." That's what started Brown v. Board of Education. But Levi Pearson farm was of such that his house was in a section of the farm that when the school district lines were drawn, it went through his property. And the house was outside of the school district. And on the technicality, the case was thrown out of court. And then a man named Harry Briggs and his wife Eliza decided to take up the case. And they filed the lawsuit that became Briggs v. Elliott. Now, the interesting thing about this lawsuit that I want to talk about here tonight is the fact that Harry Briggs was what we would call unlearned. He was not highly educated. But he didn't like seeing his children being denied an education. Because he was not educated, he was working for $22 a week at a local filling station. His wife Eliza was working for $18 a week at a local motel. They were the first names on the petition, and they were fired from their jobs. And as a result, they had to leave South Carolina and Clarendon County. But that started what became the Davis case in Virginia, the Bolden case in Washington, D.C., the Belton case in Delaware, and the Brown case in Kansas. Those 5 cases were wrapped together, and they went to the Supreme Court together. And the Supreme Court issued a decision in 1954 March 17th, because of the great work of the NAACP. And Brown v. Board of Education became the law of the land.